I was 14, I was falling fast for a blue-eyed girl in my homeroom class. Trying to find the courage to ask her out was like trying to get off from a water spout. What she would have said, I can't say. I never did ask, then she moved away. But I learned something from my blue-eyed girl. Sink or swim, you gotta give it a whirl. Life's a dance, you learn as you go. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. Don't worry about what you don't know. Life's a dance, you learn as you go. The longer I live, the more I believe you do have to give. I can promise you now, this love that I feel for you always will be. But you're not just time that I'm killing. I'm no longer one of those guys. As sure as I live, this love that I give is gonna be yours until the day that I die. Oh baby, I'm gonna love you forever, forever and ever, amen. As long as old men sit and talk about the weather, as long as old women sit and talk about old men, if you wonder how long I'll be faithful, I'll be happy to tell you again. I'm gonna love you forever and ever, forever and ever, amen. They say time takes its toll on the body.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? All right. Hello. First things first, I need to address my outfit. I'm sure many of you were lucky enough to witness the many Cabana shirts my dad wore over the years. He wore them to many special occasions, including my high school graduation. So this is my nod to him. Second thing, I don't know about all of you guys, but I have been extremely forgetful over the past week. This is just a reminder, if you guys could please silence your cell phones so we can share stories of Mo without those disruptions. I'm gonna try to do my best here, so just bear with me, okay? For those of you who don't know me, I am Mackenzie. I'm Maurice's youngest. Before I get started, I wanted to thank all of you for being here to celebrate the life of my dad. On August 9th, I lost my dad, but you all lost a dear friend, a mentor, the most knowledgeable fishing and hunting guide you could ever find, and a life partner. I have lost a tremendous part of my life, but so have all of you. I take pride in knowing my dad was loved by so many. It's a true reflection of how fiercely he cared for his friends. I especially want to thank my dad's Delta family for allowing us to welcome him back home to Georgia. This has been such a difficult experience, but my heart has been made a little lighter knowing that all of you have been taking such good care of him over the years. And that didn't stop until even his very last flight home. Sorry, I'm not trying to breathe into the microphone. Dad was the third youngest of 11 siblings and half-siblings. His father passed away when he was 10, and Dad assumed a role as parent to his younger brothers, Mark and Dan. It was then that he began his love of cooking. He often made special treats, including rice cereal, which involved heating up milk and rice and topping it with cinnamon and brown sugar, Indian fry bread, and chicken parmigiana, as Dad called it. I was the youngest of 4 daughters. My poor dad. By the time it got to me, Dad was hopeful for a boy. I wouldn't say he was disappointed when I arrived, but he sure tried his hardest to make me into the biggest tomboy to make up for it. While my sisters were busy becoming cheerleaders and musicians, my dad was busy coaching my basketball teams and toughening me up. We'd shoot hoops for hours in the backyard with our dog, Calvin, who was just like the golden retriever in Air Bud, because Dad had taught him how to pop up the basketball with his nose. I helped him gather pine cones from our giant yard and helped him build bonfires in the ditch on a regular basis. Some of my fondest memories of my dad involve us loading up our kayaks when we got off work and spending hours out on the lake, just me and him, looking at all the snapping turtles and fish. I can vividly remember one time Dad tried to take me turkey hunting. I had violently protested, but Dad had conned me into it because he bought me a glitter camo bandana, as you would naturally have to do when trying to convince an 8-year-old to go hunting. He finally thought he had a fishing buddy made out of one of his daughters. I lost that camo bandana that day. Last August, my dad walked me down the aisle. He was happy to have his daughters marry good men. I think he knew we were being taken care of out in Wyoming, but he was happier because he had finally gained some real built-in hunting buddies that might be able to convince his daughters to start hunting. I finally wanted to go, and we were set for our first hunting trip with him this fall. I was so excited, and he didn't even have to con me into it with a glitter pink camo bandana. Now I look back and wish more than ever that I hadn't lost that glitter camo bandana from our first hunting trip and kept hunting with him. I know this fall we will still go on our hunting trip, but now in his honor. But Dad wasn't just a serious outdoorsman. He knew how to have fun. Growing up, my sisters and I would sneak into his old Ford pickup truck. We had found his secret stash of moon pies and Little Debbie's. While my sister was in Alaska with him this past June, he admitted to her after almost 25 years that he knew we were sneaking into his secret stash and had been filling it up with expired junk food. Imagine me at almost 30 years old finding out that after all of these years, I hadn't actually been pulling one over on my dad. He had been pulling one over on me for years. Dad, I know I have a lot of making up to do. I'm sorry I didn't take you up on it when you asked me to go hunting. I'm sorry I didn't get to go to Alaska with you more. From here on out, I know you'll be with me every time I do. I promise to teach my kids how to hunt and fish, your favorite spots, to carry on your legacy. I promise to help my friends more when they call me, like you always did. You are the golden standard of a good man, and I'll do my best to make you proud of me. I would like to take this opportunity to offer to anyone else who would like to come up and share memories of my dad, Mo. You can either come up to the podium or there is a microphone up here, just so the people on the live stream are able to hear you share your stories. Thank you.
I'm Dan. I'm Maurice's younger brother. I didn't prepare anything. I'm just going to wing it here, so please bear with me. I'll try to do my best. But, Maurice was my older brother. It doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 46 here now. I was still his younger brother. He always looked out for me. I went up to Alaska with him and hunting, and we had a lot of adventures with each other. And he just went out of his way to make sure everything was prepared, everything was okay. He had the patience of a saint. There's so many stories I can tell you, but there's not actually a lot of funny stories because he was so prepared. You could never really put one over him, and he really didn't make a lot of mistakes. Obviously, he was human, and he did, but a couple of them I can remember here. So I'm a Delta pilot as well, and he's the one that kind of got me into the aviation. He always supported me. He always pushed me along, and I probably thanks to him, I'm where I'm at now. So, but we were going to Africa, and obviously he had 30 years experience at Delta, so he let us use his positive space passes. Those of you at Delta know what those are. But he was obviously senior to me, so he got first class going to Johannesburg, which is a big deal that far. And I got coach in the back, which was fine. But as I was walking by, and he's in first class, he's got his champagne cheering at me as I'm walking by. And I'm back there, and just before the door closed, I see a bunch of other people start coming in at the last minute. All of a sudden, I see him do the walk of shame back there with me. And so, of course, I cheered him with my, Bud Light that they gave me, in the back. But there's so many of them. The other ones, the girls know about. I was reserved down in Atlanta, and I was younger then, and to pass time, I got an Xbox, to play, whatever the Army games they were at the time, just to pass the time until I got a call. He gave me so much grief about that, A man your age getting a video game, what are you thinking? And it was funny, though. So I started playing my game, and I noticed my character was a lot farther than I ever was on mine. And I was like, what's going on here? Well, one night I came home late, and I see the little glow in the living room going, and I sneak in, and there he is. He was addicted to my game. And I think the girls, for his birthday or Christmas, I think as a joke, kind of got him, but I don't think it was a joke. I think he actually enjoyed it. But, those of you that work with him, what hard work and quality of work that he did. It was hard to keep up with a perfectionist like that. I'm the kind of guy that throws things on the wall and see what sticks, and so be it, but not Maurice. He took pride in everything he did. And the precision and skill that he put in everything and the quality of work he did was amazing. And I always admired him for that. His cooking, his skill in hunting, fishing up in Alaska. Those of you that gone fishing with him, it's frustrating because I'll spend all day fishing and barely catch anything. And the second he comes down, he's got his limit within 10 minutes. And then he's at the beer, on the shore having a beer watching me struggle. But eventually he'll come out and help me spot fish. But I was just up in Alaska with him just a month ago. And little did I know that was our last time. But we had a great time. He looked great, and he was having a great time. And I'll always remember for that. And I wasn't there this time, but I know some of you guys were, some of his friends, and from what I know, he was having a great time as well. I can't ever say I want to say that was a good way to go. I wish it would have happened 20, 30 years down the road, but man, he was a good man, and he'll always have this place here in my heart. Thanks.
first time we shook hands, he said, "You have a very firm handshake. I can tell that you're a fisherman because you got that little muscle that pokes out on the side of your arm." He had the same thing, and I'm like, "All right, man. Well, hey, we're probably gonna get along." And so we just hit it off from there, and every week we saw each other, drinking a beer, hanging out. And I'll always remember, the thing that I remember about Mo the most, besides that handshake, is he came home from Alaska and he brought us to the house, me and my roommates that also met him. He brought us halibut cheeks. And with me being a fisherman, I'm like, halibut cheeks? I'm like, what are those? Because I always just, you eat the side fillet of the fish. You didn't eat the cheeks. And I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing. And he came over, he brought fresh halibut cheeks, sauteed them up on my oven, or my flat top, and they were the best thing ever. I was blown away. I was like, halibut cheeks? And he was like, yeah, they're exquisite. They're like the high end of everything. And now, every time I go out and I get like whole fish, like you can get whole like red grouper and all that, I dive in for the cheeks immediately because it's the best part of the fish. So I'm like, thanks, Mo. Thanks for telling me about fish cheeks. So, yeah, I appreciate the handshake and the fish cheeks from him. And not to mention, like everyone said, he's just a genuine guy. He was always smiling, always there to help you. You had a problem, you could go talk to him and just say, hey man, having a hard time, and he'd talk you through it. So, and yeah, everybody loved him here in Fayetteville. I know that for a fact. So, yeah. But anyways,
Next.
thank y'all. I'll pass the mic. Who wants to go next? Anybody?
I got just a short story about Mo. I don't need a lot.
Oh, well,
Okay.
you get it. You get it.
Yeah, me and Mo worked together in the CF-34 shop for a long time, and I remember one time he. Oh, okay, there we go.
Oh, hey.
Anyway, he was inviting me to go fishing with him one time up in Alaska. And I said, well, isn't there a lot of grizzly bears up there where you're fishing? And he goes, yeah. And I said, you don't wear a gun or anything when you're up there fishing? And, no, that's just for the rookies. That, you don't need a gun. And I said, well, what do you do if you see a grizzly? Do you take off running, or well, I can't outrun a grizzly? He goes, you only got to be faster than the slowest guy. And so that was Mo. Anybody else?
No, now's the time. 20 Delta guys, I know you got something.
Can I add one more story to grizzly bear? I knew that they would come.
My stories would come as I heard more people, but the grizzly bear story, me and him were up in Alaska one time, and we were on the bank. Well, at this time you couldn't do it. Yeah, I think it's later on you couldn't do it, but at that time we could. But we're on the steps, and he was filleting the fish. And if any of you have gone up or seen him, the way he fillets a fish, a sushi chef could not do it any better than he does. It was a work of art. But anyway, so he was filleting the salmon on these steps right along this trail. And out in the middle of the river was this older man and this big, tall man. And one had a gun. He had a gun and pepper spray on either hip, so he was prepared. And the other gentleman was an elderly man, and they were a father and son pair, and the son was a Marine drill sergeant. So we were talking, whatever. So Maurice was cleaning his fish, and he was hanging the fillets along my shoulders and my arms, until we can bag them up. And all of a sudden, this guy come running down the trail, just in a panic, and he jumps over the steps and over us, and he jumps in the river, and he's running like hell. And I asked him, "What's going on?" He's like, "Grizzly bear's chasing me and my friend all day. I can't get away from him." So this guy's bolting, and I got salmon fillets all over me. And the guy, I kind of look at Maurice. I'm like, I wonder where his friend's at. Anyway, but as I look back, there's a grizzly bear coming charging down the trail. And so I'm start shedding the salmon. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm not wearing this salmon suit while a bear is chasing. And so so I start shedding the stuff, and I start running out where the Marine drill sergeant was with him and his gun, and he's double fisting it. He got a pistol in one hand, pepper spray in the other, and me and the old man are standing behind him, just looking like two cowardly people, and Maurice gets up on that trail, and he starts yelling at the bear and taking rocks and throwing at him and everything, and I'm like, this is it. This is the last thing I'm gonna, and that bear gets about maybe 20 yards and stops, sits on his butt, and looks at Maurice, and like, "What are you doing? Don't you know the game? I'm a bear, you're a guy, you're supposed to run away." And Maurice is just making a bunch of noise and throwing rocks at it, and the bear just kind of puts his head down and moseys off in the grass. And I'm like, "Maurice, you're going to get eaten by a bear up here." And he goes, "Well, that's my time, that's what happens." But he was not afraid of those bears. Every time I went up there with him, he would sleep in the tent, and the Alaskans up there would tease him and say, "You know what you call somebody sleeping in a tent up here? They call him a sandwich." So, yeah, he had no fear, and he enjoyed it up there. Bears or not, but anybody else have any funny stories to go along with that?
So one of the times I went to Alaska with my dad, we were filleting salmon right there on a rock. His magic working with that knife. And like Uncle Dan said, my name's Genesee, by the way. I'm one of Maurice's daughters. Interestingly enough, I felt so protected being in a salmon jacket myself while bears were right there. I mean, we were probably 10 feet from big honking bears while filleting our salmon, and he wasn't even fazed. He was like, just went back filleting. And I never felt more protected. People have bear spray and guns, but my dad had slimy river rocks that he was maybe gonna throw at a rock or a bear. And that was my dad. Fearless against a big animal, because that's my dad. Who's next?
Thank you.
Well, I don't know if y'all know who I am. I'm Jill's mom. But Mo was very special to us. He was our son-in-law. And the first time I ever met Mo, and I think it was the first time, but anyway, at that time we had a carport. We lived in Florida. And the next thing I know, there's a wood stork standing next to him, and he's talking to him. I go, oh, that wood stork's around here a lot, but I never talked to him. And so, wasn't very long, and he says, you got any shrimp? I said, yeah. I ran in the house and got some shrimp. I mean, I had it out on the table because we were eating, appetizers. And next thing I know, he's giving this wood stork shrimp. And that wood stork, it was there until we moved. Yeah, in Florida, you don't feed anything that's animal, or alive. Anyway, it's against the law. But that wood stork always came to see if Mo was there. So we loved him, and we had some great times with him.
Fried chicken.
Oh, yeah, when 2 nights or 3 nights before Alex got married, well, we all wanted fried chicken. Well, we didn't realize that Mo was going to buy out the store. He just kept frying chicken, and he put it in the oven. I mean, it was this high. Anybody that came that night got sent home with chicken. And we still had chicken for breakfast. Art's boys came in, and they said, come on, we're going to go to breakfast. I said, hey, we got chicken. They go, chicken? I said, sure. So we heated up chicken. Oh, there was a lot of chicken. The girls, we sent a whole bunch home with Alex because she had a bunch of her friends there. So there was still chicken, but we loved him.
All right, for those that don't know me, I'm Jill's youngest. I'm the baby of all of us. Yeah, there's 6 of us on this side. But Mo came around, I'm sorry, I can't call him Maurice, it's weird. For the last 12 years, I've called him Momo. It just hit, and it was my goal with Delta. I wanted all of his employees, all of his coworkers to call him Momo. And he said one day, he told Mom, he said, oh, someone called me Momo at work, and it threw me off. I said, yes, one person at a time. One person at a time. I was like, everyone thinks he's so intimidating, and I'm like, he's just a cuddly man. I mean, this man picked up my tears from heartbreaks. He's been around for everything. But when someone said, when he said, someone called me Momo at work, I was like, mission accomplished. That's all I wanted. So Mom doesn't know this. Well, I'm tattling on myself now that I'm an adult. So I got in trouble some in high school that Mo was around for. I got in trouble a lot compared to Alex. I don't know about how much I don't know y'all's trouble, I just know some. And me, I got grounded for a long time. Part of my punishment was I put up a fake Christmas tree because I was that bored. And Mo came home one day after Mom grounded me, yelled at me, and literally he goes, Sam, you okay? And I was like, sure, we'll go with that. Yeah. I'm like, you scared? Because I am. And ever since then, you'd get home, and we'd be talking, and then we'd stop talking when you walked in. It's because he's like, you okay? Your punishment's out of my control. That's your mom's. We separate those, all the things. And there's finally one day, he goes, Sam, I'm so sorry. I don't know what you want me to do. And we would make googly eyes at each other, whether you were getting mad at him or you were getting mad at me. But we also had a lot of laughs. I would say we had a lot of laughs. It might be at some family's expenses. We don't need to go into detail. But there's a lot of laughs over the last 12 years. He's picked up a lot of pieces. He has filled the role that he was never expected to fill. Like, I had my own dad, and for those of you that know, he encouraged Fireball before our dad's funeral. So, those that know, it would be frowned upon to not have a drink with him. But he was a wonderful man, and he and my mom had something very special that not many people find in life. So, that being said, I'm glad I was the youngest. Usually it's a fault because you shake your head no. But I also learned from everyone else.
Tell them
Whether,
what he said to you, if you get in trouble.
oh, first of all, Mom thinks I was a terrible child.
That's not true.
Now. She thought I was until Mo came along. And he shared stories, as we know. But he said, if you do anything that gets in trouble, call me, not your mother. And well, no duh. Like, sorry, if I get in trouble, there's no chance I'm calling Jill. But he also said, don't name it after me. And I said, well, that's no fun if I can't name it after something fun. Like, and every time I would leave the house, whenever I was in high school, in college, he would always tell me, don't name it after me. And, I mean, luckily I've not gotten in trouble, because now I'm going to name it after him. But, really anyone.
Okay, I've answered the question a lot the last week. How'd you meet Mo? I went through a divorce, and I was really out there just trying to find out who the heck Jill was. And I met this dude on Match.com. I think his name might have been Cliff or Clint or something like that. And he was like, hey, let's meet at Mike and C's in Fayetteville. It seems to be a kind of a central location. He lived in McDonough, I lived in Peachtree City. Said, fantastic, we'll meet there. Well, I got there a little bit early, and there was this gentleman sitting with his back against the wall at the bar, and another gentleman sitting next to him, and I think there might have been a woman sitting there, but they were all just chatting like they were best friends. And I was like, oh, I kind of like these people. So I sat down and had a beer, waiting on my date. And so we just hit it off. I mean, we just hit it off. And the guy that was sitting with his back against the wall, he was like telling people how to cook. Like the chef, like the guy at Mike and C's, he was like, this is how you make this salmon, and this is how you do that. And be careful not to overcook, and this is how long you gotta cook it. And I was like, oh, it must be the owner. I'd never been there before. So my date shows up, and we go, and we're having a seat, and my back was to the bar. So we were in the dining room area, and the dude that was telling people how to cook was sitting over here at the bar in a whole different room, but I could see him and vice versa. And every time I turn around or I get up and go to the restroom, he was looking at me. And I was like, oh my God. What a creeper. Oh my God. Like, this dude is clearly staring at me. So I continued on with my date. Yeah, you ain't it. See you later, bye. Right? So he went on. My date went on, and I went back into the bar, and I was carried on a little bit of a conversation while I was on my way out. And, basically was like, hey, my name's Jill. I enjoyed hanging out with y'all. That guy ain't it. But, good to see you. Nice to meet you. Fantastic. About 2 weeks later, the dude, just the eyes, and the way he looked at me, I was like, I'm going back. So I got my posse together, because I wasn't really sure how creepery he was, right? So I got my posse together, and we all went to Mike and C's, and I walked in, and he said, you're back. And I said, yeah, you remember. He said, I do. And he had a girlfriend at the time. That's fine. So we just we'd text back and forth periodically every 6 weeks or so, and hey, how you doing? Good. How you doing? Good. And really nothing came of it for a long time, and then one January he called me, and he said, do you want to go on a date? Like, I haven't been on a date in like 100 years. And I said, yeah. So the creeper guy sitting with his back against the wall was my Momo. And it turned out to be, at one point in time, we were at Mike and C's, and he put his hand up my leg, and I said, you're in trouble. And he said, I know it. So he's just my person, and it wasn't as long as I wanted, but I got the time. And I'm very grateful for that. And he was a very funny guy. So.
I'm Kat. I guess you could say I'm one of the few besties that Jill and Mo had here in the Atlanta area. I first met Jill and Mo, and it's following up on what Jill just said. It's just a few weeks after they had become an item, and they were at Mike and C's. I was there with a few friends, and they were sitting at the table across from me. A lot of PDA. And finally I looked over and I said, you guys need to get a room. And Mo looked at me straight in the eyes and said, we got a room. That developed a friendship that even today is deeper than a lot of friendships I've ever known. But back in March, we were in Florida together. And just before we left, Mo asked me if the house we were staying at had a sand flea trap. And I'm like, a what? And he explained to me what it was, and I said, no, I don't think there's one down there. There's plenty of rods and rails, but I've never seen a sand flea trap. So the next day, I go over to pick them up. We load up the back of the car. And Todd probably knows about this, and John too. Mo had made a sand flea trap. I'm like, okay, we're going to put that in the back of the car with us coolers of beer and everything else. We had probably more alcoholic beverages than we did food for this trip. But we get down there, and the next day on the beach, Mo takes his sand flea trap over, and he's just, walking along the edge, scooping sand and shifting and showing me what a sand flea is, and I've spent the last 22 years at the beach and didn't know what it was. Well, the next thing you know, there are people, strangers, coming up to Mo, and of course, Mo being Mo, he's taken the time to explain to everybody what a sand flea is, and he's letting them use his sand flea trap. And this went on for 3 days, I think it was, that we were there. Mo didn't get a lot of fishing done because everybody had his flea trap. He caught one small fish. It was big enough that we went back to the house and he made a meal out of it. Mo was just the kind of person that would give you the shirt off of his back. And if you were his friend, you had his heart. And he cared for you, and he loved you all. And he's here today watching down on all of us and will be with us forever. Don't ever forget that, kids. That's it. That's my story. Who's next?
I don't usually get up and talk in front of people. I was one of Maurice's older sisters. My father died when I was 16 years old, and he was 10. And we, of course, thought we were cheated. Couldn't believe it. Wasn't happy with God. Thought it was a joke. But as I grew up, I started my family early. I was like 18 years old when I had my first child, and I was kind of sheltered with all my children. I had 7. So one time we were going to like a street dance in the little town we're from in Sturgis, And my little brother, Maurice, was with me. And I was getting out of the car and was going to tie a little scarf or a sweater around my waist. And because I, had 7 children, I was a little insecure. My waist wasn't as tiny as when I was younger. And he grabbed that sweater from me. He said, "Nope, you're not putting that on. You need to show off your darling little figure." I was like, "That's my little brother." And he always, made me feel like he was somebody that was trying to do what my dad might have done at that age, or always anyway. But Maurice, when we heard about him, all I could think of is when he was out there, and everyone said that there were 3 guys that went to the ice box with their fish, and Maurice went to go get the firewood. I just knew that if Maurice, they said, and he didn't make it back. So that was a story that wasn't fully true. I guess he had made it back, and I told everyone that I know this is Maurice. He wouldn't let you do anything. He was like a perfectionist. He would do it all before you had a chance to get it done, and or to jump in, because he wanted to prove that and make it as nice as he could for anyone. And so I said, well, I could if I were there, I could say, I know exactly what he did. He went to go get the wood, and while those guys were putting their fish in the box, and he got back as fast as he could to get that fire roaring for them when they got back. So they didn't have to do anything. That's my brother Maurice. And come to find out, I heard that they said he didn't come back with the wood, but he actually came back with the wood, and the fire was roaring. And I guess they all sat around and chatted and, did whatever they were doing. And it started to fade, the fire, and Maurice jumped up and he said, "Hey, we can't let this happen." And so he went to go get the wood, and that's when he didn't make it back for the wood. So I don't know of all these people, if you guys ever knew and did things with Maurice cooking. He loved his food. He was a man that, I don't know who doesn't, but he loved his food, and he cooked, and he always wanted to be helpful. He was super helpful in everything we ever did and stuff, but he always tried to make me feel good, and everything. Like, he'd always tell me, they can't hold a candle to you, whoever it was. And so I just wanted you guys to know that, I don't know if he was that way with you, but I'm feeling that he was for all the few guys that I spoke with coming in here. I don't really know anybody like him. I really just don't, and he just made me always, as a sister, made me feel like I was really truly loved, and he was more like a father figure in the things that he always said to me. So like I said, I don't usually get up and say much, but he was worth it, and I just will miss him extremely terribly. I'm sure you guys seen him every day. We didn't. We got to see him maybe once or so a year, and I just can't even imagine Jill having him coming in through the door every day, you guys working with him and all. He's gonna really be missed. We really, really did love him. Anybody else?
My wife told me I had to tell this story. My name's Lee. I'm Mackenzie's husband. And the first time I met Mo, we came down here for her friend Taylor's wedding. He picked us up from the airport, and he was getting to ask Mackenzie a question: "What are you doing? How's your house?" She had a 100-year-old house that she should never bought. And she's like, "Well, Dad, I'm getting ready to fix it up, and I'm gonna sell it." He's like, "Where are you gonna live?" "We're in the car. I'm sitting in the front seat." She's like, "Well, I'm gonna move in with Lee." We weren't engaged at the time. And he looks at me, and I was like, "Separate beds, of course." Kinsey mentioned that he got the last laugh with the cream pies, and lo and behold, we're in our Airbnb, and tonight our room is 2 separate beds. So I think it's pretty funny. I didn't get to know him that well, but I hear he has a good sense of humor, and hopefully people in this room, everyone but my wife, finds me funny. But the times I had with Mo, I cherish them greatly. I was down here in May, had a beer with him, and at the time it seemed silly, but shit, it's pretty cool now.
Does anyone else want to talk? All right, unless anyone else wants to talk, I'll kind of move things along. Good. All right, so I'm Danny. I'm Mo's second youngest. First, I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is a full house, and it's awesome. My dad was loved by so many. He had so many close friends, Delta, so many family members coming from so far away, South Dakota, Wyoming. So thank you. So I especially want to thank his Delta family for what you guys have done for us girls and for bringing Dad home. I don't know if everyone here knows, but Delta flew him home. They brought his body with a flag around his box, and they let us be plainside when he got here from Alaska, and they had the honor guard for him when they brought him off the plane, and that was so special. My dad would have been so grateful. Like, I can't tell you how amazing it was. So thank you, especially Martin, for getting all of that arranged. And yeah, he would have thought that was so cool. So, and especially to have his girls taken care of, because he always did that. When we flew into Atlanta, he would be there at the same spot at the terminal to pick us up. I'd say, Dad, where are you picking me up? And he's like, why do you ask that every time? Same spot at the end. Like, so it was very different flying in this time because he wasn't there to greet us. We had to wait an hour for a rental car, and so usually he'd just be right there and we'd zip off. So yeah, thank you again. So my dad was, a lot of you know, a very private man. He didn't talk a lot about his personal life, didn't show a lot of emotion. He was a very burly hunter, fisher. But there were few people, I think, who were able to see that soft side of him. And so I'm letting the cat out of the bag that my dad's a big softie. He would give me those big bear hugs. I couldn't even wrap my arms around him. And what I wouldn't give for one of those, just one more right now. But luckily I was in Alaska with him in June, so I got several of those big bear hugs. I would just stand there with him, and everyone, my sister knows this, he would wrap his hand around our neck and just kind of massage it, and just like that big dad hand on the back of our neck. That was his thing to do. So my husband, myself, and our daughter Millie were able to spend a week with him in Alaska this past June, and I am so grateful that we had that time together. Dad and my daughter Millie they bonded right away. I mean, he had met her before, but I mean, she was so active, almost walking, so it's a really fun time. We would go to the RV park to shower every other day, and she would be all clean in the shower. As soon as we got back to camp, she would just get filthy again. And I'm just like, whatever, like, just roll in the dirt, whatever you want to do. And she would eat things, and my dad would just be like, just eat it. It's a pine cone, whatever. So that first time we went down to the river, we, grabbed our fishing poles and You know, after watching Dad fish a little bit, my husband and I would trade off holding the baby. So I would watch him in the river. He would just snag those fish just so fast. I mean, every single cast he would get a fish. So I grabbed my pole when it was my time. I would go out there. I'm like, I'm going to get my limit in an hour. Like, no, that did not happen. If anyone has ever been like a first-time salmon fisher, it is not easy, but my dad made it look so easy. So, needless to say, I did not catch my limit in an hour. Caught a few the whole trip, but Dad was right there behind me, making sure that my fishing pole was ready. I would get it snagged on every single rock. I would get it tangled up. I'd have to completely redo my line. My weights would be a mess. I'd lose them, they'd fall. And he's like, "You can't catch a fish like that." So, but he was so patient. He would just fix it for me and tell me cast again. So yeah, I think if anyone can have even a fraction of the patience he had, we'll be all right. Let's see. Oh, so in the future, we're planning on making this kind of like an annual thing to take our kids up to Alaska and fish. And you know, the guys who go up know that there's certain names for the fishing holes. And I'm not going to tell the story about the hippie hole right now, but I can tell you guys later if you come find me. It's a pretty good one. I think some of the guys in here know it. But yeah, we'll make sure all of our kids know those fishing holes. And we were supposed to go on a hunting trip this fall with all the kids and husbands, and we'll make sure that happens. And just in honor of Dad, because that was his favorite thing to do, take his girls fishing, hunting. On that note, we're going to do a couple more things before we wrap up. But before we do that, we want to invite everyone here to Wings and Things, just right around the corner. I think if you type it in Google Maps, it says HJ Wings and Things, if you're not familiar. It's literally just right down the street. So we're going to have a toast to my dad there. If you guys want to join us and tell some more stories, and I can tell you about the hippie hole. It's not necessarily kid appropriate, so. So yeah, he'd love nothing more than all of us to raise a toast to him, have a beer. So we can see you guys there. So right now, I think Delta would like to do something for Dad. So at this time, we can do that.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Martin, and a lot of the guys here know me, but to the family, to Jill, our sincere sympathy to both you and your 6 girls. I want to say, I just want to talk a little bit about Mo before I get into what I need to get into. But I remember coming to the CF34 shop a little bit over 3 years ago, and Mo has been one of the most supportive lead AMTs I have worked with so far in CF34. Throughout my time there, Mo was one of the persons which I could call off work. A lot of people don't know this. We've got into our headbutts, and that's normally in relationships. You're gonna have your headbutts, but Mo and myself, we've had our headbutts, but we always were able to make up. And we had this favorite saying at work. It was kind of between Mo and myself, and that favorite saying was, when work kind of got overwhelming, when things kind of, went over the top, I would say to Mo, we're gonna eat this elephant one bite at a time. And he would repeat it back to me, meaning that, when the tough gets going, we're gonna take it one step at a time. And sometimes that's how he kept me level-headed. And I'm really grateful for, you know, while coming into a new shop, Mo was very patient. He knew his area well. He always looked out for his people, you know, his AMTs in his area. On Fridays, almost every Friday, it would be smoked salmon dip. And that's something which, you know, the guys really look forward to, along with their crackers. And, you know, he had his little special things which he did in the area. You know, over the past 3 years, I've eaten the best salmon ever. I would take the salmon home, and my wife, she would go crazy. And truly, Mo, he was a special person. He went above and beyond to do whatever he could, and always liked to make sure that Mo always wanted to make sure that his era was 3 weeks ahead of everybody else's. Mo never liked to be behind. He was always looking forward. He always had the best interest of the shop, his employees in mind, and he was an exceptional person. And three things which stand out to me: Mo, sometimes he could be loud, and there are other times when he would be very quiet, and sometimes he would give you that look, and he could really tell he was in deep thought or something was about to come loose. And he would lean ahead a little bit like that. And then Mo, he was very driven. He was very tenacious. He was very passionate about what he was doing. And truly, we will definitely miss Mo in engine maintenance. He worked in different areas. He worked in the hangar. He was a lead technician out there. He also worked in the machine shop. He went there as because there was a shortage of machinists. Mo volunteered to go and to learn the skill there. And from there, he came into the CF-34 shop, and he was kind of there from the inception of the early inception of the shop. Became the lead AMT, and he was just an awesome person to work with. And with that, I'd like to invite my manager to join me up here, please, real quick. Rick? Yes, sir. So this is my manager, Rick Hindman, and on behalf of Delta Airlines, and for the service which Mo, we call him Mo, Maurice Walter, has provided to Delta Airlines, and not just to Delta Airlines, but to all the customers and the passengers of Delta Airlines. Mo has really impacted them throughout his 34-year tenure. And with that, I'm just going to ask Rick to go ahead and make this presentation. And this presentation here, which Rick is going to make, it's a window from, it's an aircraft window, and Rick will go ahead and read what it says.
Okay. Thanks, Martin, and again, I'm a fisherman and a hunter too, and Mo and I used to sit and talk about going to Alaska and stuff, and I have daughters, I have a son and daughters, and just really heartfelt listening to you guys, and know he's looking down on you. So with that, this is an airplane window. Most of the Delta people know this, even though most of these are engine guys, they don't mess with the windows too much. But we have this done, and we do this a lot of times for retirees and stuff like that in really special situations. So this is in memory of Maurice Walter, in recognition and appreciation for 34 years of faithful and dedicated service to Delta Airlines. And if you see it, it's an etched picture of the Huff DeLand Duster. So Delta originated as a crop dusting service, right, in the Louisiana Delta. So this is a nice picture. So this is super special. We hope it in some way gives you guys just a little bit of something from Delta. It's really special to us, and just like Mo, we hope this is special to you guys as well. Okay? So hang on, we'll do them both together. Or you want here, take one now, because I don't want to break it.
Okay, so that was the aircraft window. Now, that was the airframe part of the aircraft, and now we have a blade, which we would like to present to the family. And this is a blade, fan blade, which came out of one of retired fleet. And with that, we just want to extend our appreciation again to the family. And it pretty much reads very similar to what is inscribed on the aircraft window, but it says, "In memory of Maurice Walter, in recognition and appreciation of 34 years of faithful and dedicated service to Delta Airlines from your many family and friends, Tech Ops." And, I'm not sure, but which side of the family will get what, but you all can decide, which. But again, we just want to extend our love and appreciation to you. And thank you very much. And on the back, we do have, not everybody's name is on there, but we try to inscribe as many names as possible, which on the back. So there are names which were inscribed. Jill, come on up. All righty. So, Jill. All righty. Anybody else from Delta want to say one thing about Mo which stood out to you? Real quick. Todd, Jay, John. I know you guys are fishing buddies with him for a long time, You can stay right down there and just say something real quick. Todd, Jay, John. All righty. It's all good.
Mo was easy to train when you got into the shop. He picked up
I was going to invite whoever's out there. So I can see there's quite a few people in the hallway. I don't know if any of you guys want to come in and share any stories with Mo. Anybody want to translate that to the people in the hallway? Anybody?
I think they would come in.
Oh my gosh.
He said, I can't take any more of this. He walked out. Mark did? He was cussing back there.
About what?
About people telling stories.
Why?
Oh, there's cussing.
Oh. Dang, how long have you guys all been sitting out there? There are more of y'all coming in? Just keep filling in. All right.
Any more stories or anything? Should we have Brittany?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay, this is what we have for Brittany.
Is there anybody else that would like to share any stories? I know we're going to Wings and Things, and maybe that's a little more Mo style. Mo style, sharing stories over some beers, but just wanted to offer that to anybody else before we wrap up here and head over to Wings and Things. Going once? Going twice? All right. We wanted to thank you all again for being here. This means more than we can describe. It warms my heart seeing so many people here to celebrate my dad. He was obviously loved by so many people, and it's so nice to hear all of the stories you guys had. And he was, you guys all say the same thing. He was just a good man. He helped anybody and everybody. It didn't matter the circumstance or how long it had been since you talked to him. It was just, he was always there. It didn't matter. And it makes me happy, but it also, we've got some big shoes to fill.
All right. Okay, so before we head to Wings and Things, our oldest sister Brittany was not able to be here. So she sent an audio clip of her playing Amazing Grace on the oboe as her kind of contribution in honoring Dad. So we can sit here and listen, and then we can all, and then we can all head to Wings and Things, have a toast for Dad. Marianne, you want to say something first?
Okay, for all the people that knew Maurice and were in his life and in his family, I'd like to say a prayer for each and every one of you. And, you know, our hearts are all broken. And I believe in salvation, and I pray this over each and every member and person that knew Maurice. To me, the most important thing in anyone's life is, you know, God put us here, but we're gonna go somewhere after we're all here. So to me, the most important thing is our salvation. And if it's okay with the girls, I'll say a prayer. Abba, Father, I come to you in the precious name of your Son, Jesus, who died on the cross for our sins and the sins of the world. We give you all the honor and all the glory and all the praise. And we ask that each and every person, wherever you are, that you hear this prayer. I ask, Lord, that you faithfully bring these people into the fold of who you are, and that they receive you as their personal Lord and Savior. And just because of this thing that I just now did, I pray that maybe if you have not searched it out, that maybe you find out and search out the meaning of everything I just said as far as seeking him as a Lord and Savior, because it is so important. And I also pray that you protect and watch each person and their families and all their children and all their children's children's children and all their children's children's children. I pray for their salvation and a hedge of protection to be around and about each and every one of them. And I give you all the honor, all the glory, and all the praise now and forever. Amen. Amen.